Hello friends, my name is Amber. Welcome to a Lovely Yarn podcast. So today is Friday, January 10th. If you had watched my vlog last week, I had mentioned that I would be back this week with an episode all about my 2025 winter knitting plans. That's not what's happening today. If you had watched the vlog, you would have also known that my husband, actually all of us got some sort of head cold or a virus New Year's Eve. It wasn't too bad of a virus. I had actually filmed my vlog while I was sick. Well, unfortunately, Brad and I came down with another virus before we were even completely over with the first one. And so we both started feeling sick again this past Sunday. And then Monday we were both down for the count. So I have spent a good portion of this week not feeling well. I definitely don't feel normal. I'm very congested and sinus pressure and all that stuff. I'm doing all the things, I've been doing all of the things since the first day I got sick last Tuesday. But, you know, sometimes it just takes time and rest. And so I did not have the energy to put together a well-organized podcast episode regarding what my plans are. I hopefully will be able to do that next week. That is the plan. I don't know that I'll get it out next week, but I'm shooting for the third week in January to get that video out because I want to take next week to actually think about it and organize it and get it pulled together. So if you're interested in that, it's mostly knitting, but I have some other creative endeavors that I'm hoping to delve into this winter. That'll be coming up next. Today's episode is just going to be a catch up on all my projects. I'm sitting here surrounded in my stuff. And so this was kind of a last minute decision. When I woke up this morning, I thought about it last night when I went to bed. I'm trying to have a rhythm with my channel, and I never want to film a video if it feels forced or unnatural, but I actually want to film this today. I can't promise you that I'm going to be in top form. I may have to pause to blow my nose and clear my throat. So, but that's okay, right? I'll try to remember to edit all that stuff out if that happens. So we're going to just go with it. And this will be my little catch up of what's happening with my projects. And then my next episode hopefully will be what my plans are for 2025 winter. As always, where you can find me on the internet, like Instagram, Ko-Fi, my email, that's all down below. So if you're interested in any of that, you can see that in the video description. I also link all of like patterns or anything else that I suggest or talk about. I link that down below as well. So you can go there to find those things if you're interested. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. To start off with, I want to mention what I'm wearing. And this is my Drama sweater. This is a pattern by Jennifer Steingass. And I knit this, it's been a while. I've actually knit two of these identical sweaters, just in different sizes, one for my daughter first, and then I knit this one for myself. And I used Drops Air. This is like a charcoal color. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'll try to see if I can find the exact numbers. And then this is like pearl gray. It's not white, it's actually a gray color. This is one of my favorite sweaters. It also has the color work here and along the bottom hem as well, which I'm not going to sit up to show you that. I wear this sweater a lot. It has held up quite well. I mean, I do get a little bit of peeling or a little bit of pilling. Like you can see a little bit, but not too bad. Drops Air, I talk about it a lot, but it is a blown yarn. So it's like a netting, like a netted, I don't know how to describe it. They blow the yarn into it. It's alpaca and wool and I don't know what else, but anyway, one of my favorite sweaters. It's very cozy. And yet somehow it's typically not, the funny thing is with Drops Air is that I have a hard time wearing pullovers right now because my temperature, my bodily temperature fluctuations can be extreme right now. But this sweater never seems to really bother me. If anything, I just roll my sleeves up. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, okay, so that's what I'm wearing. Now let's talk about what I've finished. I have actually 2 pairs of socks to show you. The first pair I had done on my last regular episode, which I'm pretty sure I filmed and put up on December 26th. But this is my Woolens and Nosh sock advent project. And my friend Jody had gifted this to me. I have never done a sock advent before. I really didn't know how it worked other than you knit like 1 color a day. But I got this done. I finished this sometime before Christmas, or maybe, yeah, right around, yeah, because I had it finished last episode. I just forgot to talk about them. So I actually ended up knitting more colors than like the 24 or 25. I extended the size of the sock, the length of the sock, and I still have a little bit left. And she included this black contrast color, which I used for the heels and the toes. So I knit these in tandem on 9-inch circulars, and I really enjoyed doing it that way because although I typically don't succumb to second sock syndrome, I do struggle with it a bit sometimes. You know, the second sock is just, it's more boring because you've already done it one time. So knitting them in tandem was actually really nice because I was always at the same place or around the same place with both socks. When I got to about this light green stripe in the foot, I tried them on. I wanted them to be really long in the leg because I wanted these to wear with my leggings and like to have them slouchy. But when I got to about this stripe, I tried them on and realized that they were way too loose in the foot, like sloppy loose. And I knew that they wouldn't feel comfortable on my feet because I feel like I have very narrow feet. So I knew that my feet were going to like not feel tight and hugged by my sock, which is how I prefer my socks to feel. I prefer them to feel like my socks are hugging my feet. So I could have ripped back and I could have like decreased stitches or whatever, but I decided to just make the foot longer and give these to my husband because these actually fit Brad's personality way more than mine. If you guys have watched Brad over the years in mostly like my vlogs or Vlogmas, you'll know that he's a bit of a goofball and he's fun and a little crazy. And so these were just, I mean, they would have been fun for me to wear, but I just feel like it was meant to be because they're definitely more fitting for Brad's personality. So these are now Brad's socks. I think what happened is this Woolens and Nosh sock yarn is a bit more plump than like a most yarns are. And so I feel like it's like a plump fingering weight. And so I probably should have went down, instead of doing 60 stitches as I cast on, I should have went down to like 56. And I think I would have been okay for myself, but I was a little upset at first. And then I was like, no, these belong to Brad. So I'm not upset. He gets these. And it kind of worked out because I had made him a pair of socks for Christmas. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I made the foot too short. And so when he tried them on, the heel of the sock was kind of like underneath his foot a bit. And he's like, oh no, it's okay. And I was like, no, they don't fit you right. And so what I ended up doing was giving those to Lily's boyfriend because his feet are a bit smaller than Ian and Brad's. And I told Brad, I will make you another pair of socks. I had already given him these, but I do have another pair of socks in the works for Brad. I'll show those here in a bit. Okay, and then you guys know I'm in this Marling socks. Well, what am I in? I'm in this, I'm in love with this. This is the effects of not feeling well and having like the spacey feeling from sinus congestion. I've been enjoying knitting marled socks. 2 strands of fingering weight held double to give me a DK weight. I'm using the Crazy Sock Ladies pattern. I think it's just called DK Vanilla Sock or something like that. I've been linking it for you all. I made Lily a pair for Christmas, and I feel like I cast those off and I immediately cast on these, and they're finished because they go so fast when you're knitting DK weight. As the first pair, I did the smallest size, which is a 40 stitch cast on, and I use a US 2 9-inch circular needle rather than what the pattern calls for, which is a 3, because I don't have a 3. And so I mentioned this when I was talking about knitting her other ones, Lily's socks, that I've just been knitting these marled DK weight socks continental because I have a looser gauge. So I'm doing that to make up for using a smaller needle size, and it's working out fine. So this is, let me give you a close up. These are so fun. So I'm using Knit Picks Stroll in the white color, held double with, in this instance, this is Drops Fabel Prints, and I think the color name is Unicorn Party, but I will link the number down below. Hopefully I still have that label. And I used almost, no, I still had, I would say I probably used up 3/4 of the 50-gram skein of the Unicorn Party to make these. But they are really fun and, you know, thick and warm and just so much fun. And I've been talking about doing these marled socks for a couple of, I don't know if I talked about them in episodes, but I know I talked about them during my Vlogmas episodes. And I think several of you have also jumped on the marled DK sock bandwagon. So I hope you guys are enjoying that. All right, those were my only finished objects. Now I mentioned that I cast on another pair of socks for Brad because his pair that I knit him for Christmas did not fit. And I'm not going to talk about this a lot because it's kind of boring. It's like just a regular sock. It's nothing fancy. It's just a vanilla pattern that I use all the time for all of my socks when I don't follow a pattern. But here we go. This is the yarn. Super Garn Active. Color 4154. And yeah, this is what I'm getting. I'm knitting this on a size 0 9-inch circular. I do most of my socks, my fingering weight socks, on size 0 because I like the tight gauge that it gives me. I think it makes the sock more durable. And this is just, I would say, run-of-the-mill, like your traditional commercially produced sock yarn. It feels quite durable, which I like that about sock yarns, commercial sock yarns. Yeah, so I don't really have a lot to say about this other than I'm working on these now so I can give these to him to make up for his socks that I then gave to my daughter's boyfriend. Up next, I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on my Tekla sweater. Again, not going to stay parked on this subject matter very long, but I haven't talked about it for a while. So the last I talked about it, I was not enjoying it because I don't know I don't know if it was me or the pattern or what, but something just wasn't right in the sleeve. So I was having to like just really, it was a struggle through the sleeve, and I was just having to figure things out as I went, and it wasn't an enjoyable process. I also had a lot of you say, your yarns don't seem to match, and that's because the body I knit with a fingering weight and the mohair, and then the sleeve was just 2 strands of mohair. So that's why the colors are a bit different, which that didn't bother me. But I wanted to give you an update with what I decided to do with this. So I thought I knew what I was going to do. I thought I was going to completely rip this out and use this yarn to knit a ranunculus, which was my original plan for this particular yarn, which this yarn is a one-of-a-kind from Hill Fleeces, and then it's Drops KidSilk in color 27. So here are the original yarns. This is the one from Hill Fleeces. This is like just a woolen fingering weight. I mean, a wool and a nylon. And then here is my mohair. But then I was probably slightly influenced by some of my viewers, because I thought, so before I decided on that, I thought maybe I'll just wear this as a vest over things. And then I was like, but I don't really have anything in my closet that this color would go with to wear over. And then I told everybody that in one of my episodes, and several of you encouraged me, or I don't want to say use the word encourage, but you said, oh, that would be a really pretty vest. And so I think that's what I'm actually going to do, because I realized that I don't have to match perfectly. Like colors that at one point in time wouldn't have considered to like match. I think you can get away with it more now. So I'm going to rip this sleeve out, and I'm going to do some sort of finishing on this sleeve. And then I'm going to try to wear it as a vest for a while. If I decide that I am not getting enough wear out of it as a vest, then I will rip it out and I will use it for something else. But vests are actually really practical for me right now, because I do have temperature fluctuations. And sometimes it's like just to have my core of my body at a bit warmer temperature, like having that covered with more layers is better than having my core and my arms. And so I want to give it a shot. I want to give this a shot as a vest. So I'm going to rip this out, finish off the edging of the sleeve, give it another, like a nice blocking, because it's been wrinkled up in a bag. And we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update about that. If you have knit, so I got the pattern, the Tekla sweater. It's a pattern by Claudia Quintanilla. I had received that book for free. I had reviewed it like earlier. I think it was last fall sometime. Anyway, so I don't know if many of you have looked at it or knit the Tekla sweater, but I'm just curious if I'm the only one that's had problems with it. Reading the sleeve portion. I don't know. It really gave me a run for my money and made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing as a knitter. Okay, moving on. I want to give you an update on this beautiful, colorful, squishy garter ridge blanket, because I'm almost done with it. I'm almost done. Yay! I measured it last night and it was 56. I laid it out on my bed. I have a queen size bed. It covered the entire top of my bed, like the flat. It didn't hang down the sides at all, but it covered the entire top. And I measured it and it was about 56 inches across. Okay, so this hasn't been blocked or anything like that, so it may change once I wash it, but about 56 inches across. Then I measured the length of it and I was at 54.5 inches. And so I thought, all right, I'm gonna make this a square blanket. So I need to finish knitting about another inch of purple. This is my plan. And then I'm going to do an inch of one more color to finish it. And then I think I want to go back through and let me show you the edges. So I just did like, I slipped the first stitch of every row, okay? So what I would like to do is to do some sort of finishing along the edge. My original intention was to do like an I-cord, an applied I-cord. So I would do an I-cord bind off on this edge, and then I would go along the other 3 edges and do an applied I-cord. But that's a lot. I don't know if any of you have, I mean, I love the look of I-cords, but they are probably more tedious than if I would just go along the edge and do some sort of crocheted, I don't know, like a single crochet edge. The only thing, okay, so the only thing I'm worried about with the crocheted edge is I feel like it might be a bit more rigid than sticking to an I-cord. And I don't want the edges to be tight and rigid. Do you know what I mean? Because right now, this is a very stretchy, cozy blanket, and I want it to remain that way. So I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, not stressing about it, but if you have any suggestions on how to make this look a little bit more finished, I mean, I wouldn't even need to. It's fine. It's a slip stitch edge. Every now and then, I don't know what I did, like right there's a knot, so I must have knitted that first stitch rather than slipping it. And so there is that several different places, but it's not a big deal. It's a blanket to cuddle up under here at home, so I'm not stressed about that. I just thought the I-cord edging would look really nice and make it look finished, but it's not a necessity. So I failed to mention in my last something, I don't know if it was I think it was my last episode. I had so many people ask, what weight of yarn? How are you knitting? And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to mention that because I've talked about this blanket in the past, but it's been a while and I realized that I have more viewers now. So what I'm doing with this is I have just been holding fingering weight yarn. Always a white color. Okay, so one of my strands is the white color, and then I'm alternating with like my minis, my fingering weight minis. Okay, so I'm not really doing a lot of color management. I am just kind of picking a yarn and looking like, so I'll knit a color. So I did like this right here, and then I thought, oh, what would look nice with that next? So then I picked the purple, and that's kind of how I've been doing it. I haven't been doing any color management other than that. And it is just a really fun blanket. So to reiterate how I've done this blanket really quickly, I cast on 240 stitches, holding the 2 fingering weight together. And this is a size 8, US 8 or 5mm needle that I'm using. I have it on a really long cable that still isn't long enough, but oh gosh, I'm all twisted up here. Yeah, okay. I am a twisted mess. Anyway, this has been a project that I started several years ago. I've lost track at this point, which is what happens when I knit or crochet blankets. They typically take me a while, but I'm so happy like I'm happy that it's coming to an end, but I'm also kind of sad because this is a blanket that I've pretty much only worked on during the winter season. And so every winter I pull it out and it's so nice and long. I cover myself up with it now when I'm knitting it. And I have been able to do that for a while. And yeah, it's just, actually now that I'm thinking about it, do I want to stop it now? Like this literally just popped into my mind. 56 inches long. I'm 68 inches tall. Maybe I need to keep going. It just seemed good to make a square blanket, but maybe I need to make the length longer. I mean, another, what is that, 13 inches isn't that big of a deal, especially since I'm literally just knitting back and forth. It's very soothing knitting. What do you guys think? Maybe I need to make it at least as tall as me. Oh boy, I thought I knew what I was going to do with this, but now I'm second guessing myself. Okay, well, let me know what you think. I'm kind of thinking I need to make it longer. Okay, the next blanket that I want to talk to you about is all in here, and so many of you have asked me about this, and I apologize because I kept forgetting, and it's been a year. It's been a year since I started this, and what I have done is actually quite pathetic. But this was, all of this yarn was gifted to me last year by Jimmy Bean's Wool. And they had asked me if I would be a part of their blanket club. They would send me the wool and all of that, and I would talk about it, and, you know. So I started, I knit, I think this was January squares, and this was February's, and then these two as well. I could have the order of that mixed up. So what happened was, because I had received this as a gift and I hadn't purchased it myself, they were having to send me the pattern through my email every month. So if you had purchased this, you were getting it, from what I understand, the download would go directly into your Jimmy Bean's Wool account, and you would have access to your pattern once it was released each month. Because every month you got a new set of instructions for that month's squares. And I think you also got your shipment of fiber or wool. Because I had been gifted it, I didn't have an account set up that way. So I was receiving mine in my email. And I think it was February into March, they had a switch. Like whoever was handling that in their business, the position switched. So then that delayed my delivery of my pattern. I didn't get it in March. I got it in either the end of March or beginning of April. Well, at the same time as that, which that was no big deal. Like seriously, they sent this to me for free. All this yarn, Madeline Tosh yarn. But at the same time, I was going through a very challenging time in my life personally with my health. I was in and out of the hospital, like not staying in the hospital, but seeing cardiologists and electrophysiologists and then I ended up being diagnosed with a heart valve defect. That was going on January through April. And so I was feeling extremely, extremely overwhelmed by all of that. I've mentioned this in passing, but I do deal with health anxiety, and it specifically has always been, the worst has been like heart health anxiety. And I think that stems from being diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse when I was a senior in high school. But in the last 3 or so years, the arrhythmias and stuff were getting much worse. And I was chalking it up to perimenopause. But then it got to the point where it got so bad that I needed to see my cardiologist. So I went in January. They put me through a lot of tests and found I have mitral valve prolapse, but I also have another defect of my mitral valve. So that kind of wrecked me. I think it would be hard for anyone, but when you add that to somebody who already deals with heart-specific health anxiety, I was a bit of a mess last winter. In fact, last winter gives me some mild, I don't want to say PTSD, because as a mental health sufferer, I don't want to ever take diagnoses lightly, but I had a lot of it. Last winter was tough. So because of all of that, this blanket got stuck into this basket, and it has been sitting on top of this bookcase since then. I don't know that I even want to go back to it. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because I wasn't enjoying it. I don't think so, because I feel like when I was knitting them, I don't remember feeling a lack of joy when I was knitting these squares. I actually remember thinking, oh, this is kind of fun. Like you knit a square, it goes by really fast, because it's basically like knitting a dishcloth or a washcloth. So I don't think it's that. I think it's more that I have these no, not silly. I mean, I think my brain has attached that last winter and the stuff that I mentally dealt with when I got that diagnosis. I think it has attached it to this blanket. I don't know. That is just what I'm thinking. I have dealt with anxiety and depression for the last 15 years. I have read so many books about it. I have seen many actually, therapists and had, so I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. I'm pretty sure my brain is looking at this blanket and saying, ooh, no, don't go back there, because that reminds me of that last winter that was a struggle. I don't know if that's what's going on, but I felt bad because I haven't mentioned this. And I know that some of you had purchased that kit and you were knitting it. And I'm actually really curious to know how you all feel about it. Have you completed it? It's not really a surprise to me that I haven't completed it, even if everything would have been perfectly fine and I would not have been struggling last winter. As you can see from like this and other blanket projects that I have going on, they take me years to do. So I'm not touching this yarn yet. I actually, after I got things settled down in my head last winter, I went and I caked up every skein because I thought I need to get back into it. Like every skein is caked up. So I'm not touching this for any other projects. I'm just kind of letting it set. And perhaps in a year or two, or maybe even, who knows? I don't know. Because, the brain is a funny thing. The mind is a funny thing. But maybe eventually I will feel like this is a project I want to take on again. But for now, that's my update for you guys. Yeah, it's gone absolutely nowhere since I knit February's squares, February of 2024. So, yeah. Okay. I have one last project that I want to share with you. And it is just such a beautiful, it's bringing me so much joy. It's kind of like my Garter Ridge blanket. I've talked about this pattern. I've talked about Moan of Crochet Object Knitting. I've talked about her multiple times because I just love watching her vlog style episodes. And she has, right now I'm in the process of watching back through her past ones. She has quite a bit on there. I think it's her brother-in-law he has ALS. And so her and her husband I think they've been visiting him. So she hasn't posted anything maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I can't remember now. But anyway, because of that, I'm going back through and watching her past episodes, and I'm really enjoying that. But I showed, and I've talked about this before, because I started this shawl. This is the Granny Stripe shawl. It's a pattern that she released, I think, in the fall of 2024. And I started it during Vlogmas, and I actually started crocheting it. It's a crochet. I started crocheting it with commercial sock yarn that was like self-striping and stuff, and I didn't like, it was crazy looking. So I think I got maybe 4 or 5 stripes in and I ripped it out. I restarted it last week or last weekend maybe, before I started feeling sick again. And I want to show you what I have. So I'm not very far into it, but this is your like cast on, or that's your first row. And then you do a series of increases to a certain point, and then you're just doing your double crochet clusters. And as you can see here, how it kind of like goes out at an angle. She designed it that way so that it would lay over your shoulders and not fall off your shoulders. So let me see if, like the way that, there you go. Like, so it's made so that it doesn't fall off the shoulders as easily. But I'm having a lot of fun knitting that, or crocheting this. It's very just like mindless, because it's really just double crochet clusters mostly, with a couple of double like crochet cluster increases. It's not a hard thing if you know how to crochet. Even if you don't really know how to crochet proficiently, you'd be fine. I think you'd be fine with this. So this is how I'm doing this. This canvas bag is full of all of my fingering weight mini skeins. This is good. There's going to be some crinkling here. There's no way, it's like unavoidable, okay, for there not to be crinkling. So I apologize for that if it bothers you. But I want to show you, I've shown this before, but it's been a while. I want to show you how I organize my fingering weight scraps. I organize them by color family. So all my blue in this Ziploc baggie. All my green in this one. Pinks are in here. Yellows in this one. Okay, so this is how I do this. Purples. And then I have like reds, peaches. This one is just for more like neutral colors. This is like a more neon bag. I do it this way because I find it very helpful. If I know that I want a pink or a blue, I can just go to that bag and I can find a color from there. So I just find it really like a helpful way to organize my mini skeins. Before this, I just had them all thrown in a tote bag and I would have to rifle through them all. And that's just, it's fine. But for me, I like a little bit of organization. So this works really well for me because I just go to this, my green bag if I want some green. So that's how, what I've been doing here is kind of, I'm giving this a little bit more forethought than I am my Garter Ridge blanket, but I'm still mostly just looking at the colors, like the two colors before when I'm picking the next color. Oh geez. And I'm just making sure that, like, for instance, this tealy color, I'm like, does it go good with this neutral and this orange or this gold color? And I think, yeah, it does. So then I'm going to use it. Another nice thing about this is there have been multiple times that I've started a color and I'll get probably like a third of the way through the row and I'll be like, ooh, that's not turning out like I thought it would. But because it's crochet, it's literally so easy and fast. You just rip it out. It's so nice. There's no like backing up your stitches and going slowly. It's like, whoop, just pull it out and start over. So that's also been nice because it's kind of like not a lot of thought, it doesn't require a lot of thinking or planning. And if you do something you don't like, you just very easily rip it out. So I am knitting, or I'm going to say knitting because I knit so much more than I crochet, but I am knitting, crochet. Okay, third time's a charm. I am crocheting this exactly to pattern. The last time I started this, I made it bigger than what she had called for. And then I had a couple of you in my comments say, hey, Amber, just so you know, the size that like the numbers that she gives you are perfect for draping over your shoulders. So I took that into consideration. And this time my foundation chain was the number that she called for rather than making it larger. Because you start up here and it's the thinnest part of it's the least wide part of your shawl. And it just keeps growing from there. So this is a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it. I am not knitting. I am crocheting it on where is my crochet hook? Huh. It's probably in this bag. Stand by. Okay, I am crocheting this on a size D, which says it's a 3 to a 3.25 millimeter. I think that in her pattern, she says to use what does she say to use? hook size 3mm. So is this a 3mm or a 3.25? I don't know. I'm not as, it's funny because although I crocheted for many, 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 many years before I started knitting, I don't remember the hook size stuff info like I do with the knitting needles. Probably because I don't crochet as much anymore. So yeah, it is a little bit fiddly to work with fingering weight yarn when crocheting. Like sometimes I will drop a loop off my needle, off my hook, but it's not that big of a deal because like I said, when you mess up in crocheting, it's so much easier. In my opinion, it's so much easier to correct because yeah, if you're a crocheter and a knitter, you probably understand what I'm saying. All right, now the last thing I want to close with this actually. You probably know that I'm not, like, my podcast episodes typically don't feature acquisition portions or anything like that. It's rare that I buy yarn anymore because I have so much, not because I don't want to. It takes a lot of willpower, let me tell you. But I have I feel like I have a very nice stash and I want to use the yarn that I've purchased because it's beautiful and I love it. And so I really try hard not to purchase yarn unless it feels like it's a necessity or if I'm just so in love with it. And it's like one of those things where if you let this opportunity pass you by, it's never going to come again. But that hardly ever happens, right? So I treated myself though. I treated myself to a Sock Squad monthly membership by the Farmer's Daughters Fabric. Farmer's Daughter. Oh my goodness. Guys, I'm so sorry. Farmer's Daughters Fiber. She does a Sock Squad every year, which is basically a monthly subscription that you get. I think every year that she does it, she bases the yarn that she dyes upon a different artist. So this year, the artwork is from an artist that goes by the name of Land and She. And that's her artistic company name. And then every month, Candace, who owns Farmer's Daughters Fibers, will dye yarn that is inspired by a particular piece of artwork from whatever artist she's using for that year. So I have seen other people talk about this in the past. Stephanie from Edible Thoughts Makes, I know that she did it last year at least. And yeah, a couple other podcasters. So I've seen it. I've never used Candace's yarn before. But I thought I am going to just treat myself this year. I don't know if I'll let it go on all year because you can cancel it, but I thought I'm going to give it a shot. And I think it's going to be, especially during the winter months when it's kind of like dreary and cold and I'm not going outside as much because it's like in the single digits out, which has been extremely cold here. I haven't been going outside because I felt well. But I thought it would just be a nice little treat and I'm not going to feel bad about it because typically I'd feel bad about it, but I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to give it a shot and see how it goes. So I received my first shipment and it's absolutely beautiful. And because I signed up in, I think, November of last year or before a certain deadline, I actually received the Sock Squad journal. And this gives you an idea. Well, you can see I think these are all of the different pieces of artwork that Candace used for the yarn for 2025. But inside, it gives you, I guess they do some sort of thing on Ravelry, yeah, in Discord, where if you knit a pair of socks every month using the yarn, then there are prizes. I will not be doing that. It's way too much pressure. But it has like a place to write the patterns you want to try. And then for each month, it gives you some pattern ideas. and then a little place for you to keep your notes on whatever pattern you decide. So I'm very excited about this. I didn't show you the yarn for January. I am going to finish this podcast up because I'm getting tired and spacey. Okay, this was January's, and it is so pretty. So let me get up close here. This is the Elkhorn sock, which is 80% superwash Punta Arenas Merino and 20% nylon. And the colorway is called Finding My Path. When I was looking at the artwork that inspired, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about what this yarn. I feel like it's gonna all be really like earthy and yet also beautifully jewel toned at the same time. Like, I love these colors. I love these colors. I think this is gonna make me really, I think I'm gonna really like all these colors. I don't know. That's just a little bit of a peek into that. I hope that's okay to do, but yeah. So that was a treat to myself for this year. I may end up canceling it halfway through because I get overwhelmed by the amount of fingering weight yarn, but we'll see. I actually really want to start a pair of socks. The only thing that's holding me back is the fact that I have to wind this up into a cake. I am so lazy when it comes to that. I've talked about this before, and you guys have, some of you have also said that you also hate caking up yarn skeins. I feel like I would have so many more projects started if it wasn't for that one step, which actually is not even hard to do. It's not hard to do. I just don't enjoy it. It's time to end. It is time to end this podcast. I need to go get something warm to drink. My throat is scratchy and I feel like I need a nap. And I hope that things were mostly cohesive, everything I've said. I'm glad that I was able to come on here, and hopefully next week I get everything ready to go so I can share with you guys what my knitting and crafting plans are for the winter. Because, so real quick though, I want to say I'm super impressed with my dad's ability to read nature signs, because all fall when him and I were out walking, he would say, look at all these acorns on the ground. We're going to have a hard winter. Like, he said it multiple times. We have had a very cold, frigid winter. Now, this is definitely a winter like I remember from when I was a kid, but for probably the last hard winter I can remember having recently was in the winter of 2009 into 2010. So that's been a while. But our last several winters, we've had days in January, February, March where we've been outside in t-shirts. So, I mean, that may still happen, but it has been so cold here. So very cold. So I have some plans, because I do love going outside, but when it's this cold out, I don't go out for as long, of course, as I do in the summer, or even just days when it's more mild. And so I have some plans on ways that I want to spend my moments in the home doing some crafty things that go beyond just knitting, but most of it is knitting. I'm definitely going to be sharing some knitting projects that I'm excited about starting sometime soon. So if you're interested in that, hopefully I'll have that video up like the 3rd week of January. And I thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, all of the info should be down below. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or Ko-Fi, that's also down in the video description as well. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you guys all next time. Take care.